other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You, episode 15 of season 3, man. It's your boy Scott here as usual each and every Thursday. If y'all know to follow me on Twitter at Barbchair Scott. You know to follow HNB Media at HNB Media on Twitter and HNB Media TV on Instagram, and of course follow the Barberchair Network at BarberchairNet on Twitter and IG. Subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/Barberchair Network. By the time you be watching this will be Thursday, January 26, 2023. I'm recording this on the 25th, so if any breaking news happened overnight and I don't talk about it, just know this has been pre-recorded. But when you be watching this, it'll be the 26th, and that means it's also 3 years since the passing of Kobe Bryant, man. So, of course, I want to give RIP to my man Kobe and keep praying for his family out there, man. But let's get right into it, man. We're going to get into it. My sound off, man. I want to start off with my man Joe Burrow, man. My man Joe Shiesty, as they like to call him. Joey Buffs, whatever you want to call him, man. He is out here dominating, to be quite frank. Last week upset the Buffalo Bills with a nice 27-10 win on the road, advancing the Bengals to their second straight AFC Championship game. This is new territory for the Cincinnati Bengals, who went 30 years without a fucking playoff victory, to now being back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances, man. And I think it's about time for people who weren't giving Joe Burrow his respect to give Joe Burrow his respect. He is, the tier. He's in the Patrick Mahomes, like the level right under Patrick Mahomes. Now, of course, Patrick Mahomes is by far the best quarterback in football. He is in a whole different tier by himself. The things that Patrick Mahomes does are alien-wise, but there's been a time over the last couple years we thought, especially after last season, there would be the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen era after their epic second-round divisional matchup last year. But now Burrow is like, yo, hold up. It's time for y'all to give my respect. This is going to be an era that me and Mahomes are going to share, and it's not going to be Josh Allen, man. I think it's about time that we actually start to look at some of the historic things that this man is doing. First, of course, after going 23-36 last week, 242 yards passing, 2 touchdowns on the road in the snow. He really should have had 3 touchdowns. That touchdown that took away the second ball thrown to Jamar Chase was some bullshit and should have counted as a touchdown. But, of course, the NFL don't know what the hell a catch is anymore. But also, look at these stats. He has 13 December/January wins in a row, which is only 1 shy of Joe Montana's record of 14, and it's 4 shy of Patrick Mahomes' record of 17, which Joe Burrow broke last season in last season. So this is just something right now. He's in a whole different kind of territory right now. He also has 5 playoff wins, which is the most ever by a quarterback drafted number 1 by the age of 26. And he is also undefeated against Patrick Mahomes, who is a guy that he'll be facing this weekend once again. To me, this guy is incredible. I just love what he's doing. His confidence is out there. He has a real killer vibe to him. Like nothing really gets to him. The pressure doesn't get to him. He's cool as hell. Of course, they've been taking a little ball throw he had pre game last week and been throwing it all over social media. But the guy is just cool, calm, collected in the post. And I really think this is the time right now we need to give this man his respect and stop comparing him to other quarterbacks that aren't Patrick Mahomes, man. So gotta salute Joe Burrow. We've been proving me wrong last week, because I definitely picked the Buffalo Bills last week in my predictions, man. So let's get right into the aftermath of divisional playoff weekend, man. Last week we had 4 different games. I went 2-2 of my predictions. The Dallas Cowboys went home. The New York Giants went home. The Jacksonville Jaguars went home, and the Buffalo Bills went home, man. So I think the number one thing we need to start off with is the successful season that Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars had. Actually, it was a pretty competitive game last Saturday against the Kansas City Chiefs. They actually had a chance to win that, which they didn't really take advantage of Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain, which we will get into later in this episode. But they're still a young team. The fact that they were even in a situation where they even could win a game against a team that's just straight up dominated the AFC over the last almost decade now is vast improvement from this team, going from worst last season off back-to-back number one draft picks to being number one in the AFC South. Of course, the AFC South is probably the worst division in football. Actually, no, the NFC South is the worst division in football, but it's one of the worst divisions in football. But they still went over there, took advantage of two teams who everybody thought was going to be better than them, in the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts, and went out there and won 9 games and win a division, especially with this how bad they starting off the season 2-6, but having just straight up dominant second half of the season. Doug Peterson in his first season as a coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, pretty good season, got Trevor Lawrence off to that right path he needs, because honestly, you got to give Trevor and this whole entire team a pass last season after that entire Urban Meyer bullshit. That whole experiment was an absolute failure. In his second year in his career, in his first year with Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence put up 4,113 yards, passed for 25 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. Christian Kirk, who's the big offseason signing this past offseason, where everybody criticized the Jaguars, saying they spent way too much money on him. They overpaid him. Well, the quote-unquote overpay worked out. Christian Kirk had 84 catches, caught for 1,108 yards and had 8 touchdowns, and of course was really big towards the end of the season in that game against the Tennessee Titans, which sealed up the division for them. And he's also had 2 very big playoff games. He had a big drop in the last week's game, but you can't catch all of them. But overall, Christian Kirk had a great season, and I think that the Jaguars are more than pleased with what he did, and I think that he was worth every dollar that they got. So you got to give a salute to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's very few situations where you can lose a playoff game and you can still look at it with a moral victory type of thing, but this is definitely a good thing for them. And with that weak division they have, and we expect Trevor Lawrence to just continue to get better and better, they could be dominant in the AFC South for a long time, and the AFC in general. He could be part of this quarterback, new era of quarterbacks that is pretty much all in the AFC. If you look at all the dominant young quarterbacks right now, there's really only one in the NFC, and that is Jalen Hurts. Everybody else is in the AFC, so he has a chance to put himself in that AFC quarterback gauntlet moving forward. So you got to give some love out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, my second observation from the divisional weekend isn't a good one. It is for the Buffalo Bills, a team that everybody, including myself, championed with the good offseason they had, bringing in Von Miller, fresh off a Super Bowl championship. Everybody felt that, they were so close to beating Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs last season. They even got the overtime rule change, which I thought was bullshit, because I feel like we don't really value defense the way we should in this particular era of the NFL. And there shouldn't be something where both teams be able to score a touchdown. No, if you want to win the fucking game, play some damn defense. But they were able to get that rule change. They had a pretty great start to the season, pretty much rolling on all cylinders. Josh Allen got hurt. Didn't really look that same after that, but even when he did get healthy, he started making bonehead decisions. And you really just start to see what kind of a gunslinger that Josh Allen is. He has a lot of Brett Favre in him, and if that happens, you got to live and die with it. But one thing about this team that really stood out to me is, and this was a concern I had last week when I was choosing between the Bills and the Bengals, and I said I wasn't confident in the Bills because of how they've been playing really over the last 2.5 months. They don't have a running game. They have no type of running game. I don't give a damn how explosive your passing offense is. If you don't have a good running game, it doesn't matter. And that hurt them tremendously in this game against the Bills by having absolutely no running game. Sometimes it looks like that Josh Allen just goes, fuck it, Stephon Diggs is out there somewhere. And then you had Stephon Diggs was pretty much MIA in this game. In fact, in his last couple playoff games, he doesn't even have one touchdown. And it really looked like it's a more of a one-dimensional offense and not the offensive juggernaut that we saw the first month and a half of the season. The defense sorely missed Von Miller, but it wasn't just a pressure thing. The secondary was getting eaten up all day by those Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers. And even the week before against Miami, with the third string quarterback, Skylar Thompson was getting busy on the secondary either. And they just really had no shot last week. No matter how many times they looked like they could score, they just could not hold for Josh Allen in this offense. And really they need to look themselves in the mirror right now, because if you look at the landscape of the AFC, like I just mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs are not going anywhere. The Cincinnati Bengals are not going anywhere. You got guys like Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars on the come up. Even though the Chargers fucked up brutally, Justin Herbert is still a guy to be reckoned with in that division. Who knows what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson? If Lamar Jackson does come back with the Ravens, he's a guy you got to, get ready for. So this is something that they need to take this L and try to get even more weapons, get a running game, and just be better than they were this past season, because they took a step back this year. And now they're, Josh Allen is rightfully getting the criticism that he deserves. 2 turnovers last week, a fumble and an interception. Should have had a couple of interceptions. And they need to figure out how they're going to be able to get past this gauntlet, because it's not going to be easier going from here on out, man. So the Buffalo Bills definitely a failure into this season. Another positive note here is a positive note for the New York Giants. Yes, I'm still on my wave of, I feel like they shouldn't, but I feel like Daniel Jones is not the quarterback of the future. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but at the same time, I've got to be fair with him. He doesn't have a great wide receiver core at all. He had a great comeback season from Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley rushed for 1,312 yards and had 10 touchdowns. He's going to be hitting the free agent market, as well as Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, in his first full year in the actual system brought by Brian Daboll, he threw for 3,205 yards, which is great, but only 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions this year. So it wasn't too much. He had a great playoff game against Minnesota, but I think there's a lot to say about the bottom ranked defense that is the Minnesota Vikings, more than they did say about Daniel Jones. But, this is a situation that a lot of teams face in the NFL, where it's just not a lot of great quarterbacks. And if you have even a decent quarterback, or a chance for this quarterback to be decent, you got to hold on to him. So I really don't think the Giants have any other choice but to hold on to Daniel Jones. And this is why I've been saying this entire year, they've been hustling backwards, because I felt like they should have been tanking this year to get them a quarterback like Bryce Young, or like a CJ Stroud. And I see no type of scenario where they do trade up with the Bears or some other team to try to get one of those quarterbacks. I do think they're going to pay Daniel Jones, and I think they're going to hit Saquon with the franchise tag. And so, if you're a Giants fan, yeah, it was cool. You have playoff football for the first time since 2016. You won a playoff game for the first time since Eli, and then won the championship in 2011. So there was some positive strides here. It's just long term, I just don't really see what the plan is to be able to take that next leap from cool playoff wildcard team to being able to actually contend for championships, because I just don't think Daniel Jones is that guy in the grand scheme of things. But in the small picture, pretty successful season for the New York Giants. Now, I left the best for last. Say the best for last of my recap of Divisional Weekend. The Dallas Cowboys, everybody's favorite team to hate. And by the way, I don't hate the Dallas Cowboys. I just really love watching their fans suffer. I feel like there's two fan bases in sports who are stuck in the 90s. It's the Dallas Cowboys, and it's also my beloved Chicago Bulls. Stuck in the 90s, where you had the Troy Aikman, and you had Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith. And of course, we all know the 90s Bulls, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and all that. Difference is the Bulls have actually won a couple playoff games since then, have actually been to a conference final, while the fucking Cowboys have only won like one playoff game since then, have not been in an NFC Championship game since 1995. So there's a little bit more stretch of futility than there has been for the Chicago Bulls. But the same thing as far as fan bases being stuck in a decade that's coming up on 30 years old. But this is a team that I feel like I was talking about. The Bills got to look themselves in the mirror. Jerry Jones and this team have to look themselves in the mirror. Dak Prescott ain't it. It's just there comes a time when you're watching a quarterback and you just got to admit that he's not that guy. Do I think Dak Prescott is a bad quarterback? Absolutely not. I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. I think if you rank all the quarterbacks, he probably comes in at like 12. I don't think he's a bad guy. The problem is the inconsistency. He shows you flashes where he can be incredible, and he can show you what he showed us this past Sunday, where he's just god awful. And just even look at how he did with missing 6 weeks this season and still leading the league in interceptions. He had in his last 9 games, he's had an interception in every game except for one of those. And this is a game where I feel like other Cowboys losses you can pin on other things. And maybe it was a little bit unfair to heap all of the blame on Dak Prescott. But this is a situation here where I feel like you can blame at least 85 to 90% of blame on Dak Prescott. The other 15%, I'm going to give to Jerry Jones for letting Amari Cooper just trading Amari Cooper for no damn reason. Because as you can see, it really put all the pressure on CeeDee Lamb. He didn't have that guy with him in the wide receiver core that could have made them much more dangerous. Now, of course, you can also look at Tony Pollard, who got injured in the first half, and that completely took out any type of running game they had, which he wasn't having a great game beforehand, because we all know the 49ers have the number one defense against the rush, and they completely shut that down. But having that explosive running back being taken out and having all of it being in the hands of Ezekiel Elliott, who is basically just a red zone threat now, completely made them one-sided in this game. And one thing that we saw was the defense did an incredible job. I think the strength of this Cowboys team has been the defense all along. The secondary has been great. Trayvon Diggs, Michael Parsons, man, I don't even know what more you can say about this kid. This kid is generational. He's one of the best linebackers in football. In fact, we had a linebacker. It was like linebacker heaven in this game. You had him and the guy who is the best linebacker in football, Fred Warner of the San Francisco 49ers. They were going head-to-head. So both defenses slowed down these explosive offenses, and Dak had time after time after time to put his foot on this game and give the Cowboys the win. The Cowboys had no business losing that game. Driving down the field multiple times and having opportunity to score and take the lead, and Dak gets the ball intercepted both times. One was a pick six. And it's just something where I think the Dallas Cowboys have to take a hard look into rebuilding, because if you're looking about this, where is Dak going to take you? Dak is about to enter his 8th season in the NFL. He is who he is. It's got to be, what does Jerry Jones really want? And they had a nice conversation this week about this on Dan Le Batard. Is he a guy who he just wants to be in the playoffs and he's cool with just being the number one popular team in football, making the playoffs, and everybody's talking about the Cowboys? Or does he really want to win? Because if he really wants to win, this ain't it. And unfortunately for them, there's no other quarterback really out there that they can get who can take them to the next level who's better than Dak. Jimmy Garoppolo isn't better than Dak. Derek Carr isn't better than Dak. You're just basically forced into the situation of mediocrity. And how many times are they going to continue to make the playoffs, continue to fall on their faces for them to get it? And I think it's real time that they maybe need to rebuild this whole entire thing, trade the good players they got, get some assets, and start from scratch, because this ain't working. And as far as Mike McCarthy, I don't think Mike McCarthy is to blame here. Mike McCarthy, to me, has always been the scapegoat of this team. And I feel like he has also wrongfully been accused as the guy who Aaron Rodgers carried to a Super Bowl. How many Super Bowls has Aaron Rodgers won without Mike McCarthy? Oh, 0. That's right. So I always feel like it was unfair criticism by Mike McCarthy. And I think Mike McCarthy has coached a good job, done a good job coaching, despite his name being, up for maybe getting fired every fucking year. This isn't a coaching situation. I don't think that Sean Payton can come here and fix this thing. It's Dak, and they need to start over, man. So if you're a Cowboy fan, man, I don't know what to tell you, but this to me was your best shot of making a legit run at the Super Bowl, and it just didn't happen, man. It's time to start over. Now we're gonna get into Championship Sunday this week, man. I always love this time of the year because it means we're close to the Super Bowl, but it's also kind of depressing because it means it's gonna be 3 more games left before the football season is gone, and there's no football to watch till August, and that is not fun for us football junkies like myself, because August feels like 5 fucking years away from now. But we're getting ready this weekend. AFC Championship game, NFC Championship game. Let's start off in the AFC, man, with a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. We got the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Like I said earlier, Joe Burrow is undefeated against Patrick Mahomes in his career, 3-0. And that was all 3 of those wins came last season. And the year before, streaming in for the year before, obviously, the year before and last season. Of course, they played in the regular season last year and also in the playoffs. So this is a team right now who knows they can beat them. And this is one thing that I love about this. We're starting to see rivalries, like real strong rivalries, come back in these playoffs. And of course, we always know division rivalries, but we had a lot of those this year. You had this one right now. It looked like it's a brewing rivalry between Mahomes and Burrow. We have a rematch of this. In fact, 3 of the 4 teams in the conference finals right now were in the conference finals last year. Only difference has been San Francisco is here instead of the Rams. So you can really see that consistency there. Not San Francisco. San Francisco was there last year. I mean, Philadelphia was here instead of the Rams. So that's really what we're seeing right now, consistency with all these teams coming back here in these different rivalries we're having. We had the NFC East rivalry of Giants and Eagles coming up. We have the best rivalry maybe in football between the Cowboys and the Niners in history of football, which spans since the 70s with their ninth meeting this past week. So I'm really loving that. I think it's good for the game, and I'm really loving to see that this could be something where everybody was wondering, could Mahomes and Josh Allen be the next Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady? This looks like this is more likely to be the next Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning. And this is something I'm really interested to see. There's a lot of things about this game that we got to talk about, but the number one thing is ankle gate, something that everybody's been paying attention to. The status of Patrick Mahomes' high ankle sprain, which we all know about high ankle sprains, will take you out of commission for 4 to 6 weeks. And if this is the regular season, I'm 99% sure Patrick Mahomes would not be playing. You know, he did not want to leave that game last week. He had to leave for a drive, and got to give a shout out to the backup quarterback in Kansas City right now for the way he came in there and really just took over the whole game and was able to just keep that team on the right level and being able to get them on the scoreboard. Man, you got to give it up to them. Chad Henne with his drive starting at the 5-yard line and getting them in there and it's really calming the entire crowd, calming the team back. Everybody was panicking about Patrick Mahomes being injured. He led them right down the field with a touchdown to Travis Kelce. So that's why you always got to have a competent backup quarterback who knows the system and run it, because you never know when you're going to need one, man. So backup quarterback's really important. So you got to give some love to Chad Henne for going out there and being a pro, and he ain't played really all year, and just being out there, coming in a playoff situation and scoring a touchdown and having it right back up there for Patrick Mahomes. Now, Patrick Mahomes was a full participant in practice on Wednesday. And there was a little video that came out. You know, people was trying to look at the ankle. You can't really tell from that. And one thing that I will say, the Kansas City Chiefs aren't going to give any type of, signs, of what he's really feeling right now. Patrick Mahomes know that the camera's on him 24/7. And so I really don't take much from the video we saw. Well, he's doing these exercises. He should be fine. High ankle sprains don't heal in a fucking week. So I definitely think that's going to be the number one story coming into this game still. And Vegas hasn't changed the line at all. The Bengals are still a 4-point favorite heading into Sunday. So I still think this ankle is a real big factor. It's actually a big factor in my choice of who I'm going to pick to win this game. Now, coming into this game, the Bengals are on a 10-game winning streak from their tough start to the season. They're the first team to start 0-2 and actually make the playoffs after losing the Super Bowl. So that's a big thing for them. They have not lost a game since the week of Halloween, actually on Halloween. So that's actually something very incredible. So they're coming here rolling on all cylinders. The offensive line did really great last week, despite them missing 3 starters at the moment. The secondary has been good, and they're feeling themselves. Of course, we know the whole little thing of Eli Apple going at it with everybody on the Bills this past week. And one thing I will say about Eli Apple, I know a lot of people didn't like his, the heart emoji tweet he put, which was basically, what they were doing with DeMar Hamlin. And by the way, for those of you who think that, that this DeMar Hamlin thing is like a conspiracy, get out the fucking house, man. Like, give me a fucking break. I tweeted that this week, and I had some of the biggest idiots on planet Earth in my mentions. Just get out the house, man. You've been watching too much YouTube. But I like this kind of stuff. I like when I see athletes go out there and talk shit. Now, of course, Eli Apple isn't the greatest cornerback. A lot of times he gets burned, but a lot of times he can be good too. And one thing that I love about it, he embraces the villain role. Now, of course, he put out an apology today, which we 100% know it came from his PR company. But I like that kind of thing, and I like that he wears it. Last year, when they lost the Super Bowl, people was going in with Eli Apple. He didn't bitch about it. He went out there and owned it. And I think as long as you are able to take it when it comes to you, I have no problem with the shit talking. And I love that Eli Apple is taking the villain role right now, and I really think it brings an edge to that Cincinnati defense, man. Also, like I said earlier, the Bengals have won 3 in a row against the Chiefs. So if you're a Chiefs fan, you're probably thinking, we're fucking due. And there's no way we should be able to lose 2 at home to these guys. And, of course, last year, The Chiefs were actually up 18 points. And, of course, the Bengals came back with a great second half and won off a field goal in overtime, which is one of the best AFC Championship games either. And I don't think this game will be that much different as far as excitement. But to me, the X factor here for the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game is their defensive line, and more specifically, defensive tackle Chris Jones. They need to be able to put pressure on this injured offensive line. They need to be able to get to Joe Burrow, and they need to create pressure because with Patrick Mahomes not 100%, the defense has to step up their job even more. And this is a game also where I think we're going to see a lot more running. I think it's going to be like what we saw in the second half of the Jacksonville game. I think Andy Reid is going to run the football. That's something that this Cincinnati defense has to be prepared for, and they can't let Patrick Mahomes off the hook. I'm expecting a lot of blitzes. I'm expecting this pass rush Cincinnati to be ready. I will be going after that ankle every fucking play. They need to go out there and knock them out and be able, that's the only way they're going to be able to win this game. And just keep doing the things that they've been doing. Defense playing good. Defensive line playing good. The secondary playing good. And, of course, Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow. And all the weapons he has with Boyd and T. Higgins, who I hope will be not a Cincinnati Bengals. So, and, of course, Joe Mixon. So, this is going to be a very, very competitive game. And I've gone back and forth about who I think is going to win this game. I just really am not confident that Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to be Patrick Mahomes with a high ankle sprain. Those are something that is just not easy to play on. In fact, he was limping the whole second half. And, of course, they're going to have a shot. He's going to have a shot. He's going to be drugged up. But I think in order to beat Cincinnati, they need Patrick Mahomes to beat Patrick Mahomes. And I just don't think that's going to be it. And I just feel like the Cincinnati Bengals are on a mission. I think they're trying to go out there and actually make up for the loss they had in the Super Bowl last year to go out there and take the championship. So I think the Cincinnati Bengals will be the AFC representative in Arizona in a couple of weeks for the Super Bowl. I got them winning 34-30 in a very competitive game, man. So let's go over to the NFC, man, between the number one seeded Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. The Eagles coming off a blowout dub over their division rival, New York Giants, 38-7. I was not sure if Jalen Hurts was going to be healthy. Jalen looked amazing last week. The running game looked amazing. Everything about that team looked like the well-oiled machine they've been all season. And this one, I think, is going to be a defensive slugfest, man. But this is the 18th NFC Championship game for the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl era. This will be the 8th NFC Championship game for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is to be their first NFC Championship game since they won the Super Bowl in 2017. The San Francisco 49ers have the number one rush defense in the NFL, which is going to be key because you have a team that is so RPO heavy, a team that runs the ball a lot, not just with their running backs, but also with their quarterback. This is a team that is not allowed a 100-yard game from anybody this entire season, and they did a really good job of putting the clamps on Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard last week. And, of course, we know the week before how they did against Seattle. The Niners coming in with the biggest win streak in football right now on a 12-game win streak. Brock Purdy did not have his best game last weekend. You know, I'm so tired of the Brock Purdy narrative, man. It really starting to piss me off. And we're going to get into the NFL honors in a minute with the awards and, you know, his nomination, which I have a huge problem with. But Brock Purdy was kind of brought down to earth last week when he actually had to go against an actual NFL caliber defense. Brock Purdy had his first game with no touchdowns and his first game with a QB rating under 90, but he did enough to help them win the football game. Now, this is a game that I think is going to be won in the trenches. This is something we've seen this entire playoffs from every team that's involved. If you're a team that's trying to rebuild, specifically a team like my Chicago Bears, you're seeing that the games are won in the trenches between the offensive lines and the defensive lines. We got two of the best here. We got a defensive line in Philadelphia who has a top 4 pass rush right now. Well, not top 4, the number 1 pass rush in the league right now. They had 5 sacks last week against Daniel Jones and that good running offense. Of course, Brandon Graham has been great. They've got a good offensive line. Jason Kelce going up against Nick Bosa is going to be an amazing battle. If you're a football junkie, you just love to see two great lines go at it. And I think this is where the game is going to be decided. Who's going to be able to run the ball more? Who's going to be able to stop the pass rush more? This is going to be where I think the whole thing is going to be decided. And one thing about the Eagles, their secondary ain't too shabby either, man. Their secondary was ranked 4th in the NFL this year with 17 interceptions. They picked off Daniel Jones twice last week. So this is going to be an even bigger test for Brock Purdy, because as great as the Dallas Cowboys defense is, their secondary isn't up to par with what they got over there in Philadelphia. And also crowd-wise, this is going to be, I know that, this is the first time where Brock Purdy's on the road in a playoff situation. And those fans in Philly, man, it's a whole different beast. So he's really going up against a whole different threat this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to play. And I just think the big deciding factor here is going to be, I do think that San Francisco has the edge defensively, but I trust Jalen Hurts way more than I trust Brock Purdy. And I think that's what's going to be the deciding factor here. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this one 28-21, and they will advance to the Super Bowl, and they will meet up against Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, I think it'll be pretty exciting, man. So those are my predictions for this week's NFL Championship Sunday, man. So let's get into the NFL Honors. For those of you who don't know, the NFL Honors is the NFL's award show where they announce all the different award winners for the season. And the nominees were released this week by the NFL. So we're going to go over each nominee, who I think should win, who I think anybody who might have been snubbed of a nomination. So we're going to start off first with the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Will be running back Kenneth Walker III for the Seattle Seahawks. One of my favorite rookies this season, actually my favorite rookie this season, Ohio State's own, New York Jets' own wide receiver Garrett Wilson. And of course, the man I just mentioned, QB of the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. And I think that this is absolute bullshit. The dude only played 6 games this season. You got a guy, Chris Olave, another Ohio State wide receiver, who was straight up dominant in his first season with the New Orleans Saints, put up all the key numbers. And this is the shit I'm talking about with narratives that we see. And I don't feel like this is the right thing when we come to this situation with Brock Purdy. This is a guy, and this is nothing to take. I'm going to keep saying this every week because I know it comes off like I hate the kid. I don't hate the kid. I just don't like the narrative being around it. This is a kid who just come into an amazing situation. He is a glorified game manager. This is not a guy who's going to go out there and win a game for you. This is a guy who has one of the best defense in football. He has a guy who's probably the best play caller in football, one of the best offensive line in football. He's got one of the best weapons around him, and Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's got everything. All he has to do is literally just don't turn the fucking ball over. And I think that should be the story. And instead of comparing this man to Kurt Warner and fucking Tom Brady. And I feel like narrative is something that has been put into awards now, which I don't like. And it's also with MVP, which I'll get into later, which I feel like is one of the guys who's nominated doesn't even have a chance because of the narratives. And I just think it's a slap in the face to Chris Olave and the entire season they put up this season with the New Orleans Saints. There's absolutely no way that Brock Purdy should be on this list. And who I think should win, I think it should be Garrett Wilson. But if we're going to keep going off narrative, it might actually be Brock Purdy who wins this fucking award, which would be even more of an abomination for the NFL. But if we're going off great seasons, like it should be voted, Garrett Wilson should be the Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. Let's go on to Defensive Rookie of the Year, which I have absolutely no problem with this list. Sauce Gardner, cornerback for the New York Jets. He had an amazing, phenomenal year. Defensive end for the Detroit Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, and quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, Tariq Woolen. Man, this is a very tough category here, man. I feel like all three of these guys could win, but I think it's going to come down to Sauce and Aiden Hutchinson. Oh, man, I think I'm going to give it I think I'm going to give it to Sauce, man. I'm going to give it to Sauce. Aiden had an amazing year. But I think it's way harder to come in as a corner and play well against some of the league's elite. And he did that this year, shut down pretty much every number one wide receiver he was lined up against. And I had the opportunity to see him play in person when I visited MetLife this year to watch the Bears and the Jets. And this kid is phenomenal. He's only doing this in year one. And I think the sky's the limit. And that's nothing to take away from the other two candidates. I think they'll be great. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be hell to deal with for my Bears and every other team. That's a fan. Every other fan that's a team with a fan in the NFC North. This guy is a dude, a force to be reckoned with, man. So this is a really good list of nominees here. I think the NFL got it right with this one. Now we got Coach of the Year. Now, of course, we got 3 Nominees here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, San Francisco 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan, New York Giants coach Brian Daboll, Bills coach Sean McDermott, and Jacksonville Jaguars coach Doug Peterson. Honestly, really have no problem with these lists. I probably would have taken Sean McDermott out and put in Zach Taylor of the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, a lot of teams don't usually come back after losing the Super Bowl. And he did that and it took this team to where they are today right now. So I don't think it's a huge snub. You also could have put Andy Reid in there, but I feel like Andy Reid is being hit with the Phil Jackson, Bill Belichick treatment, and he's been great for so long. They don't even nominate him for the fucking award anymore. I think Bill Belichick only has 1 or 2 coach of the years. Phil Jackson only has 1. You know, so I feel like when you're that great, they're just like, okay, we just give it to somebody else. But ultimately, I don't have a problem with this list at all. Who I would give it to is very tough. Who I would give this to, I think it can go to any one of these guys. But if you give it to me, I just have to give it to Doug Peterson. I have to give it to Doug Peterson because the shitstorm he inherited. You have a team that had the #1 draft pick 2 years in a row. A team that, you know, had a complete shit show with the whole Urban Meyer thing last year. He had to just go in there and see if this locker room was even going to be filling what he's selling. And, you know, if they had any trust issues from the last coach. And not only did they believe what he was selling, he really took this whole team to another level, especially with how bad they started. So I feel like all 5 of these guys will win, but I would say I would give it to Doug Peterson if I had a vote. Now we're going to the NFL honors offensive player of the year. Tyreek Hill, the Miami Dolphins, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, and then Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this one I would give to Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was incredible. I think he is probably the best wide receiver in the league right now. He went up there and he broke every Randy Moss record this season, and he was a guy who was just flat up dominant. Really, all 4 of these guys were dominant. Jalen Hurts had a career year this year. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and Tyreek Hill made guys like me who thought he was a product of Patrick Mahomes shut the hell up because he did incredible and he actually made Tua look a hell of a lot better than he did. So I really think anybody can win this, but I give it to Justin Jefferson. Now we go to defensive player of the year. Michael Parsons from the Dallas Cowboys, linebacker, defensive end for the San Francisco 49ers, Nick Bosa, and defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, Chris Jones. This one I'm giving to Michael Parsons. I think Chris Jones is phenomenal, 15 sacks. Nick Bosa does what Nick Bosa does. But Michael Parsons, man, this guy be a linebacker of his size. I mean, Chris Jones is a big guy. He looks like a dominant defensive tackle. Nick Bosa is he's probably one of the most in shape defensive ends I've ever seen in my life. You know, he's a freak show, kind of like Aaron Donald. But Michael Parsons, to be a linebacker and play like a defensive end and just be as dominant as he is, and he really took that Cowboys defense from good to great in just his second year in the league at that, I got to give it to Michael Parsons, man. That dude is dominant, and I feel like if you redo the 2021 draft, he goes a lot higher than he did. Comeback player of the year. This is a tough one, too, because you got Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants, who's nominated, Christian McCaffrey from the San Francisco 49ers, and Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. All 3 of these guys can win. To me, it comes down between Saquon and Geno. Saquon having coming back from that ACL tear, and then he got injured again last year. Christian McCaffrey finally being healthy and playing on a winning team. But to me, this is going to Geno. I mean, Geno Smith went from being a backup to being cool and being serviceable when you needed him to play. It's being just straight up good. The man had 30 touchdowns this year and just went out there and took a team in Seattle who a lot of people, including myself, thought they were going to be at the bottom of the league, to take this team to damn near winning the division, going to the playoffs, and had a really good chance of beating the 49ers in the playoffs last week, man. So I'm going to give it to Geno. Like you said, they try to write me off, but I ain't right back. And I think he was great. I think he's going to get a good contract this year. I think Seattle loves him. I think he's finally found a home. So it's always good to see a black quarterback do well, man. So I'm going to give it to Geno Smith. And, of course, the award that we all here to see who will win. The most valuable player award, here are the nominees. Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts, Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen, and wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson. Now, we talked about narratives earlier, and to me, I don't even know why non-quarterbacks are nominated for this award because it's a quarterback award. I think it should be based on most valuable player. And I think that wide receivers and running backs and even defenders should have a chance to win the MVP. I don't like how it's just all quarterback based. But since I don't make the rules and I don't decide how it's voted, I'm giving this award to Patrick Mahomes. I think Jalen Hurts had this award won until he got hurt. Those last couple weeks being out hurt his opportunity. And Patrick Mahomes is just Patrick Mahomes, man. At this point, the guy's just flat up dominant. He's an alien. This is his era. I would give it to Patrick Mahomes, man. So those who I would say should take home awards next Thursday at the NFL Honors. And by the way, NFL, y'all need to start, making this show live. Like, I don't want to watch an award show after all the media members who were at the show at the taping then tweeted out who the damn winners are. Like, who the fuck wants to watch that? They didn't make that shit live, man. But that is all for my NFL talk. Let's wrap this up with some NBA talk, man. My observations from the week. We got our first trade this week, man. The Los Angeles Lakers making the first move, trading for former Washington Wizards forward Rui Hachimura. I hope I pronounced his name right. He has been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for 3 second-round picks in the future. I think it's 2024 picks. So it's pretty much a fuck you deal, honestly. Like, there's nothing really. The Wizards just gave him up, pretty much. And also Kendrick Nunn was also in that deal. I actually really like this deal for the Lakers. I think it helps them a lot. I think this kid, he averaged 13 points this season so far, shooting 48% from the field. I think he can go out there and he can give something to this team. Now, the problem is Laker fans, a lot of national media, acting like they traded for Larry fucking Bird. And I think we need to calm down. Just because he's a Laker doesn't mean we got to lie about how good he is. I think the kid has some upside. I will be concerned about the Washington Wizards just letting him go really for nothing. But I think it's a good addition, and this Laker roster needs all the help they can fucking get. Now, this is interesting to me because Anthony Davis, now, of course, when you watch this, the game will have already been played, so I don't know if they beat the Spurs or not, but Anthony Davis will make his return against the Spurs. LeBron James is only 177 points away from breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record for the all-time scoring, so that's going to happen. But the Lakers right now, it's getting to the point where you can see the frustration in LeBron's face. There was a shot on him where you had Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder arguing that they got straight up throttled by the Clippers. Clippers won 3 in a row. I was going to talk about them, but until they actually going like a 10-15 game run of everybody actually playing, I have nothing to say about that team. But the Lakers, I see a path here, man. And I think that they're going to trade these 2 picks they have that has been a holdup. I do think that Russell Westbrook will be traded. I don't know who's going to pick those picks up in Russell Westbrook, but I think there will be a deal to be made. And I think there's a team that we got to look at, and that team is the Toronto Raptors. I think Toronto Raptors have a decision time. Really, the entire league. This is going to be one of the most entertaining, unpredictable trade deadlines we've seen in NBA history because the play-in game gives a lot of teams a lot of decisions about do they want to go all the way in or do they want to be able to just say, you know what, let's just tank and try to get Victor Wembanyama in the draft. We're going to see a lot of teams what assets they're going to be able to give up. And I think there's going to be a team or 2-4 who will be willing to do some business with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think the Lakers, if they can go out there and try to trade for a guy like a Fred VanVleet, or, Gary Trent Jr. And also Fred VanVleet is also got, I think the Clippers should go look at. The Clippers need to go look at Fred VanVleet and maybe even hit Miami up, see what's up with Kyle Lowry, because I think they really need a point guard. But if they can go out there and they can get them one of those 2 and you add on Hachimura, and if you have, and this is the biggest thing, and it's at this point, it's not an if, it's just will it ever happen? If Anthony Davis can stay healthy, I think there's a path with a healthy LeBron James, with a healthy Anthony Davis, with Hachimura and all the guys on the team who's already been playing well. Thomas Bryant has been playing well. Dennis Schroeder has been playing well. And if you're able to get one more guy who can help you space the floor, I think this team can be a top 6 team in the West. And maybe they can upset a younger team. Like in a 7-game series, I know we all like the things, feel-good story, the Sacramento Kings. Are you putting money on them to beat a team with the healthy LeBron James and Anthony Davis? I'm not. You can maybe, Dallas, as good as they are, can Luka beat these 2 in a 7-game series? Now, I don't think that there's anything that is going to make the Lakers a title contender, but I do think that there's a path for them to not make a play-in game and then say, okay, in a 7-game series, we got 2 of the best players on planet Earth. Can you beat us 4 times? And I think that should be the goal, and then readjust, reassess, in the offseason, man. So I really like this trade for the Lakers, and I do think this is going to be something that's going to help them in the long run. And I do think there's going to be another move that's going to happen at the deadline for the Lakers, man. So I'm really paying attention to them over these next couple weeks. Number two thing I saw this week, my man Dame Lillard. We all love Dame Lillard. I don't know an NBA fan who doesn't like Dame Lillard. One of the most exciting players in the league, been one of the most exciting players over the last decade. He has had some of the most fun and entertaining game winners. The dude is just all world. He needs to fucking leave. You got to leave, bro. I understand he's from Oakland. He's a loyal guy. He's a real dude. You know what he say? I'm not running for the grind. Well, my brother, it's time for you to run from the fucking grind. I'm tired of seeing this brother's talent just be wasted in fucking Portland. You know, and I know they got a great fan base out there. It's a nice community. I know he just built a new house out there. He's got a family. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but he's got to look himself in the mirror and ask himself, does he want to win championships? Does he want to compete for championships every year? You're not competing for a championship on the Blazers. Shit, you're damn near not competing for fucking play-in right now. And the loss that I said they saw this that they had this past week against the Lakers, where they blew a 25-point lead at home. With LeBron and that random roster they got over there was just like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I really think that this guy needs to get out. Now, Portland's not going to really trade him. It's going to have to come down to Dame saying, you know what, I want this to happen. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of summers. Nothing's happened. I hope that he wakes up and smells the coffee and realizes that you're too great of a talent to be rotting away in Portland. And I want to see that guy on the winning team be over there and compete for championships. So, Dame, please, sign to all your fans. Get the fuck out of Portland, my guy. Now, I'm going to wrap up my NBA talk with my favorite basketball team, Chicago Bulls. There comes a point in time, not just in sports, but in life, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I say this to all Chicago Bulls fans, not including myself, because I called all this shit in the offseason, by the way. I called all this shit in the offseason. This team just is who they are. They're mediocre. This is a team that was built to really skip a rebuild. When Arturas Karnisovas, Mark Eversley were hired in 2020, they pretty much reshaped this roster by going out there and signing DeMar DeRozan, go out there trading for Nikola Vucevic, and go out there signing Lonzo Ball, actually losing draft picks to try to sign Lonzo Ball. Now, I do feel like Lonzo Ball, if he was healthy, there's no doubt in my mind, if Lonzo Ball is healthy, this will be a top 4, top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. He just brings that different element. I think that Lonzo is like the point guard version of a Draymond Green. He means that much to this team. He facilitates the offense. He gets them easier shots. He's one of the best defenders on the team. He's one of the team's best three-point shooters, and I just think it brings a whole different element. But he's not coming back this year. I don't know when the hell he's coming back. I don't know if he will ever wear a Chicago Bulls uniform again. I hope he does, but we don't know. And this team just is who they are. For all of you players, all you fans, just hoping they're gonna, flip some switch and just be better than they are. No, they're not. Their ceiling is the play-in. They're stuck at the 10th seed right now. They could go up to 9th or 8th or something like that, because the other teams in front of them are just as mediocre. But stop thinking this team turned the corner. They had an opportunity on Wednesday after coming off 3 straight impressive wins, go on the road on a back-to-back to beat the Indiana Pacers team, who does not have their best player. Tyrese Halliburton is hurt. And to go out there and win and be able to put themselves in position to get a higher seed and be able to even have a chance to get into the top 6, to get that number 6 seed over Miami. And they just completely led an A, had a 21-point lead in the third quarter, blew it, and played some of the dumbest basketball I've seen in that fourth quarter. And hear me very clear. Zach LaVine is only a max player in dollars. He is not a max player. Zach LaVine is just a guy. He's just a guy. He's just a guy with cool offensive moves, and it is what it is, man. We need to stop hoping that he's better than he is. I was one of the people who said that he's better than Devin Booker. He has the skill to be better than Devin Booker, but he's not. He's not better than Devin Booker. He's not even the best player on his own damn team. It's DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine's not that guy. He had 6 turnovers last night. A lot of bonehead-ass turnovers in the fourth quarter. And for a guy who's come out here and complaining about not getting the ball in the fourth quarter, there's a reason why you don't get the ball in the fourth quarter, because you play like a fucking dickhead. So this is something that I'm just fed up with the way he's been playing. And the Bulls really had no choice but to give him the money. You couldn't go out there and let him walk for nothing after you traded Jimmy Butler, who was the cornerstone of your franchise before, You had to pay him, and it just is what it is. It's not something where I look at they shouldn't have paid him. No, but he's just not that guy. And this is a decision right now, but the Bulls just have to figure it out. Because I don't think there's any massive trade out there that's coming. I guess they could trade Vucevic because he's going to be a free agent this offseason. And I don't see them sign him to a long-term deal. And Vucevic is having a really good season, which I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about. I feel like a lot of people go off the Twitter narrative. And if I got to hear about that Wendell Carter Jr. trade one fucking time, Wendell Carter Jr. wasn't and is not currently better than Nikola Vucevic. Yes, you can talk up here about the draft picks. Yes, that makes the deal look a little worse than it did. But I still real honestly have no regrets about that deal. And it's a situation right now where they could trade Nikola Vucevic because I don't think his stock is going to be any more higher than he is right now. But I don't even really see that happening. I don't see a Jerry Reinsdorf. If I know anything about Jerry Reinsdorf, cheap ass, I don't see him taking a team where he gave a player the biggest contract he's given out in his entire history as a sports owner, not just with the Bulls, but with the White Sox, and then set up for a rebuild, especially in a rebuild where they don't even 100% own their first round pick for next year. So I don't see that happening. The Bulls are mediocre. I think they will make the play in. They might win a playoff game. Shit, they might not. They might lose. But this is a team at the crossroads where I feel like a decision needs to be made this offseason. But Bulls fans, it is what it is. I haven't gotten mad over any loss they've had this season because I saw it coming. It's accepted in your heart. This team is mediocre, and that's just who they're going to be. Move the hell on. So that's all I got to say today. That's all I got today with my rundown. We're going to wrap this up with my Goofy Mog of the Week. I actually had two names I was going to have my Goofy Mog of the Week, but that changed over the last 24 hours. I originally was going to give it to Shannon Sharp and Ed Reed. I didn't really like how Ed Reed went about the whole situation with Bethune. I didn't have a problem with his complaints. I just feel like he did it the wrong way. And y'all know how I feel about that goofy ass shit Shannon Sharp did. But something came out over the last 24 hours that topped it to me. And I think it's team I just mentioned, Chicago White Sox. I'm giving a good mark to the Chicago White Sox, and more specifically their pitcher, Mike Clevenger, who was signed this offseason to be the fifth starter in this rotation. He's now being accused of domestic violence for beating up his baby moms and also throwing tobacco at his own fucking children. This dude is obviously a piece of fucking shit. She has been talking about it on her Instagram story, even showing proof of it. And this is a situation where the White Sox allegedly didn't know about it, which I also call bullshit on, because this is also the same franchise that signed Tony La Russa as their manager after multiple DUIs, after a couple of racist remarks. It's the same franchise that has employed abusers in the past in their minor league ranks. So I'm not going to give Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, and damn sure not Jerry Reinsdorf the benefit of the doubt. I think they knew about this situation, and there's no way this shit just came to light now. And the fact that we're almost 48 hours since that thing has happened and this motherfucker's still on the roster is the problem. And I'm just fed up with everything involving the White Sox, not just this situation, but the way they've half-assed this whole entire rebuild and take advantage of a fan base that just wants to win by putting out mediocre bullshit on the field. And this is just the cherry on top of the bullshit, and they need to get rid of this guy immediately. I don't want to see him take the field. Nobody who is a White Sox fan who isn't a piece of shit should want to see this dude take the field. And I just feel like there should be more accountability from this franchise. And on top of that, the guy's he ain't even good enough for you to be able to, even want to give him the benefit of the doubt. So the whole situation just makes me sick to my stomach, man. And I don't feel like there's any room for abuse, especially not on any of my fucking teams, but in sports in general, man. So give a good mark to the Chicago White Sox and the Mike Clevenger, man. Do better. So that's all I got for y'all this week for I'm Not Gonna Hold You. We will be back next week. It will be Pro Bowl week, which I think Pro Bowl this year might be a little interesting. They're gonna have the first ever Pro Bowl game, so it's not the traditional game. They're gonna have a flag football game as well. It's gonna be two different teams, one coached by Eli Manning, one coached by Peyton Manning. The captains were just released today. Snoop Dogg is gonna be captain of the AFC, and the NFC is gonna be coached by Pete Davidson. Why the fuck Pete Davidson still gets these looks? I have no fucking idea, but I feel like this will be something that I'll at least give a chance to watch next week, man. So next week we'll recap Championship Sunday. Start to get y'all a little bit of a spirit for the Super Bowl, and we're gonna be even closer to the NBA trade deadline, man. So we back next week on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, like always. Y'all know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChairScott. You can follow this great media company, HNB Media, at HNB Media TV on Twitter, and at HNB Media on Instagram. Follow the Barbers Chat Network on Twitter and IG at Barbers Chat Net. Subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barbers Chat Network. All different $5 tiers, man. We got Cinema with the Guys is up right now. We got new summer sessions up for y'all, man. So check all of the content on the Patreon, man. So I'm going to holler at y'all next week. Visit thebcnet.com. We out.
Getting paper on these player haters, old news, money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line.